Hello, my darlings. Mother Raven here with a new series by William Schoene. This one is called The Silver Ticket. Chapter 1. Dad, are you kidding me? I asked. Absolutely not, he replied. You're seriously making me stay with crazy old Aunt Vicky, I said. Stop calling her that, Sam, Dad nagged. Your aunt is just old school. Yeah, old school. That woman acts like breathing too hard is a sin. Do you remember when we were at her house on Halloween? Yes, I do. And she has gotten better. So you're going to stay there, and that's final. But she's going to be so boring and strict, and as long as she's not beating on you, you're going to be fine. You're going to stay there for the whole summer while your stepmom and I go on our honeymoon. Can I please just stay at the house by myself? I asked. My decision is final, Sam. Now pack your stuff. Can't miss your flight to Louisville. Yeah, we can, I grumbled. With that, my dad left the bedroom and closed the door behind him. I couldn't believe my dad was forcing me to stay with my boring great Aunt Vicky. That woman was an old Jesus freak that eats, sleeps, and drinks the Bible. Her house is full of crosses and Christian paintings, not to mention the countless shelves on Bibles throughout every room in the house. My dad told me that she had a Gutenberg Bible in her house somewhere, and that he tried to talk her into selling it. But she wouldn't do it, even though it was worth a fortune. He told me that conversation ended with her screaming, "Money is not my God," over and over again. When I packed my things, my dad drove me to the airport. He put me through the process of getting on the plane. After I got through security, I said goodbye to my dad and left for the plane. The flight from Maine to Louisville was long and boring. I spent that time playing my Nintendo 3DS and sleeping. Unfortunately, it was a low-budget flight, so there weren't any movies to watch or anything else to do. When the plane landed in Louisville, a feeling of dread hit me. It was the feeling you get when you know things are set in stone and there is no turning back. This feeling let me know that I was stuck there. When I got off the plane and grabbed my luggage, and I met Aunt Vicky by the front doors, she had a taxi waiting for us both to take us back to her house. I thought you had a car, I told her. I do. I got my license taken away from me recently because of a DUI. I was surprised by this. She was a very religious person. That led me to believe that she didn't drink alcohol, let alone drink and drive. After I loaded my belongings into the trunk of the taxi, we were driven to my Aunt Vicky's house in St. Matthews. When we arrived, she paid the cab driver and I unloaded my luggage. When I walked inside, I was greeted by a big painting of Jesus on the cross on the wall. The painting was rather graphic. It showed a picture of a beaten and bloody Jesus on the cross. He was surrounded by a crowd of people who seemed to be an angry mob. "This is new," I said, pointing to the painting. "I got that at an art festival 6 weeks ago for $600, she said. "Don't you think it's a little graphic?" I asked. "No, Jesus died for our sins," she answered. "Nobody said it would be pretty." "Damn," I muttered, taking a second look at the painting. "Watch your mouth," Aunt Vicky shouted. I flinched, startled by the sudden outburst. "Let me lay down some ground rules. No cussing. No using the Lord's name in vain. You are to be in bed by 8 o'clock. You cannot be out any later than 6 o'clock. "I'm 16, Aunt Vicky. This is ridiculous," I commented. "I don't care what you think. You're staying with me for the whole summer, so you'd better follow my rules or I'm calling your dad." "All right," I submitted, feeling defeated. "Lastly, don't drink my beer and don't, under any circumstances, go in the basement." I gave her a weird look. "What's in the basement?" I asked. "None of your business," she replied. "Whatever," I said, walking away from her. I walked down the hall to the guest bedroom. and put my luggage on the floor. Then I fell on the bed, nearly passing out from being so tired. A few seconds later, Aunt Vicky walked in. "I'm going to the store. Do you want anything?" "I'm good," I declined. "All right, don't leave the house. It's almost past curfew." "I'm too tired to leave," I promised. "Good," Aunt Vicky said, leaving the room and closing the door behind her. Then I got under the covers and proceeded to fall asleep. As I was about to lose consciousness, my cell phone rang. I took it out of my pocket and looked at it. It was Dad. "Hello," I answered. "Did you land yet?" Dad asked. "Yeah, I'm at Aunt Vicky's right now." "You sound tired," he told me. "I am. I know how you feel. You were pretty bored on that flight, and I know how that can put you to sleep really easily." "Yeah, when does your flight leave?" "Tomorrow at noon." "Wish I could go to Vegas," I grumbled. "Maybe on your 21st birthday." "All right, well, I'm going to let you go so I can get me a nap." "All right, I'll talk to you later." "Bye, Dad." I hung up the phone and continued with my nap. After what seemed like a few minutes, I was ripped out of my deep slumber by a loud crash. The room was pitch black, meaning that I had been asleep long enough for it to be late at night. I got out of bed and sped over to the light switch and turned on the lights. I began searching the room in case somebody was in here. I looked under the bed, in the closet, and even behind both bookshelves, but I didn't find anyone. I walked out of the room and called for Aunt Vicky as I walked down the hall. That was when I began hearing shouting. "Oh, Jesus, please forgive me." It was Aunt Vicky. I followed the noise, and I was led to the kitchen, and I saw that the door leading to the basement was open. I walked over to the doorway. The basement was completely dark, and I could hear Aunt Vicky down there. It sounded like she was praying. "Aunt Vicky," I yelled. "Who's there?" she hollered. "You better get out of my house." I could hear her racing towards the staircase. I ran away from the doorway. As I ran down the hall, I could hear Aunt Vicky shouting, "Get out of here before I blow your head off!" The thought of this woman owning a gun scared me. It was obvious she didn't realize that there were 2 people staying in her house. If I caught her at the wrong time, I could get shot and killed. When I got to my room, I ran inside and slammed the door and got back in bed. I heard her coming towards the room. When she walked inside, I shut my eyes and pretended to be asleep. I could hear her rummaging through the closet to see if anyone was hiding in there. I heard her next to the bed. I think she was looking underneath. Then she walked out of the room, and I heard her yell from outside the room. "When I find you, Billy, I'm going to shove this rifle up your butt crack." The next morning, Aunt Vicky woke me up early. I looked at my phone. It was 7:30 in the morning. "Why are we up this early?" I asked. "We have to get ready for church," she replied. "But I don't go to church," I protested. "Well, you're going to start. Now put something good on." I didn't bring anything formal with me to wear at Aunt Vicky's. I guess that was stupid of me because she was a Jesus nut. So that obviously meant she was going to make me go to church. I wore a black polo shirt and a pair of jeans. I even put a belt on, even though I didn't need to. I suddenly heard my phone ringing. I went over to it and unplugged it from the charger. It was Dad calling. It was unusual for him to call this early because he was a super heavy sleeper. "Hello?" I answered. "Good morning, church boy," Dad greeted. "I take it you knew this would happen too?" "Of course I did," Dad mused. "Be prepared to do this every Sunday for the rest of the summer." "Never make me go to church, Dad." He laughed a little. "I'm serious. I already get up early for school. I don't need to add to it." "I'm not making any promises," Dad teased. "On a serious note, I have something to tell you." "What's that?" "It's about Aunt Vicky. I woke up in the middle of the night and heard her downstairs screaming really loudly. She was praising Jesus and chanting all kinds of nonsense." "That's Aunt Vicky for you. She's a bit of a holy roller." "Yeah, but it gets worse. I called for her from up the stairs, and she chased me all the way back to my room, thinking I was a burglar or something. Then she came into where I was sleeping and began searching for somebody named Billy. I tried my best to keep this from you, but I think it's time I told you the truth. Dad hesitated. Aunt Vicky is schizophrenic. What? When your aunt had an episode that Halloween, that was when things really took a toll on her. I got her admitted to the local mental hospital, and things began to work themselves out. She came to terms with reality, and after a few months passed, I checked her out. I stayed with her for a couple of weeks to help her get on the routine of taking her meds daily. You said you were going on a business trip. I had to tell you that because I knew how you'd feel about me doing that. What do I do if things go south? You get me on the phone as quick as you can. No police, no authorities. I'll talk to her and she'll calm down. All right, I'll call you if she has another episode. Good, because if the cops get her, they'll stick her in the asylum and make sure she never sees the light of day again. I promise I won't call the cops on her, Dad. Thank you, Sam. I have to let you go now. Aunt Vicky is anxious to get to church. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye. You probably wonder why my dad cares so much about Aunt Vicky. It started when my father was born in the mid-1970s. He was the aftermath of a long night of drugs and hippie sex. His parents were two irresponsible teenagers that obviously had no idea what they were getting into. So when he was born, Aunt Vicky took my dad in, while his parents were allowed to continue their nasty habits. After a year, they were both found in a cheap motel room, dead as day-old dog poop. In the end, they ended up as just two more overdose statistics to add to the list. After long and boring church service, Aunt Vicky and I went back to her house. I decided to spend the rest of that afternoon playing my Nintendo. It wasn't long before I heard her rush to the basement to chant and pray like she did the night before. I knew better than to interrupt her like that I had done before. After a few hours passed, Aunt Vicky walked into the room. I'm about to take a nap. If you leave the house, be back by curfew or I'm calling the police. Okay, I agreed. She walked out of the room and shut the door. I continued to play my game. It wasn't long before I got tired of playing video games. It was then that I started to think about what was in the basement. Aunt Vicky was asleep, so I thought I could get away with taking a quick peek. What could possibly be in there? I quietly walked out of my room and tiptoed down the hallway. I moved as quickly and quietly as I could without making the wooden floors creak too much. When I got to the basement door, I knew the rusty hinges would squeak like a gaggle of mice. I couldn't let Aunt Vicky catch me sneaking in the basement, so I remember seeing this technique in an old movie to keep rusty hinges from making noise. This was a long shot, but curiosity was getting the better of me. I spit in my hands and rubbed the saliva on each of the rusty door hinges. Then I opened the door and thankfully no noise was made. I made my way down the steps. The old wood whimpered with each step closer to the bottom. The whole time I kept picturing Aunt Vicky snatching me back by my shirt collar and dragging my ass back upstairs to blow my brains out. When I finally made it to the bottom, I used my cell phone as a flashlight and looked on the wall for a light switch. When I found one, I flicked on the lights and gasped at the sight of what Aunt Vicky was hiding. I stood there in shock at such a sight, but I was ripped back into reality when I heard Aunt Vicky walking towards the basement door. So quoth this raven.